Brandon Lewis here, publisher of the Tennessee Conservative News, founder of the Painters Academy, where I have coached 500 contractors all across the English-speaking world. And although my home is beautiful, building it was a nightmare, and it is a nightmare that is shared by almost every individual that I have spoken with that has done business with Jon Totherow Construction through an open records request. I've got emails, I've had phone conversations, and the story is predictably the same. My advice to you is to run. Do not walk away from Jon Totherow Construction if you're looking to build a home. So here's the common theme of working with this individual. He's hardly ever on the job, and I'll tell you why. He moonlights building. Moonlights. It's your dream. It's your money. It's the biggest investment you'll probably make in your life. The guy moonlights doing it. He works full-time as a cop. Okay, he doesn't tell you that when you first start talking to him, because if he told you that, you would leave. And he keeps it very hush-hush. That's why he's never available. That's why he's always working, doing something else. His budgeting process is garbage. And I've heard this from every person that has worked with him. He puts together these cheap budgets because he thinks that it will make you sign a contract with him. And then later, you discover that there is nothing in any category, flooring, lighting, you name it, that's going to fit within the budget that he's given you, even if you tell him you want to build a luxury home. Okay? He was over a year late completing my home. And because of that, I got to pay the tippy price of the lumber market during COVID. I had higher interest rates on my home, higher carrying costs, and in the end, I had an option to refinance because he drug out the process so long and was so inattentive that I lost the loan, or the term expired rather, and then I was going to have to pay all these finance fees to basically finance the house in new construction twice. And so I had to pay out the nose, out of savings, just to keep everything floating. He does not have any basic business knowledge or basic building knowledge. Whenever there's some kind of problem, and we had plenty, I'll talk to you about them here in a moment, he didn't know what to do. All he could do is call a sub in who had caused the problem to begin with and stand there with his hand on his hips and say, what are you going to do about it? The guy does not have a builder's instinct or knowledge. He is disorganized. He never writes anything down. He'll come out to the job site, you'll talk to him, and he'll shake his head and look at you, and he never writes anything down. The shortest pen is better than the longest memory. People that do not write things down do not retain them, and so you are constantly having to bring up over and over and over again the same things. And often what he does is he just delays. Like, you'll ask for something, and he thinks that if you ask long enough and he does nothing, eventually you'll give up, because that's been his lived experience. Because as I talked to all these folks that did business with him, they all said this, right? And a lot of them just absolutely give up. And a lot of people don't like the kind of conflict that Jon Totherow brings into your life. And conflict is something I deal with all day, so it doesn't bother me as much as most people. And I wish I'd made this video earlier. And the reason I'm making it now is I was out at an event, a political event, and one of his clients came up to me, and he's just long face, sad, because he's going through what I went through. And I thought, you know, if I can do something to keep someone from having to go through this, I'm going to do it. So hopefully this video and these articles help. What else? He has a very limited number of subs. Very limited number of subs. And some of them are terrible. And so if something gets behind, like, he can't call anybody else in because he doesn't have any relationships, because he's ran off most of his subcontractors. Most of his subcontractors have nothing nice to say about Jon Totherow. They don't. I've talked to them. They work because of the money, and a lot of them are folks, I coach people in the trade that maybe can't get work doing something else. And so when you don't have a strong bench of subs and you're trying to build a house, it's going to stretch out the process. You're going to have problems. He flooded my house right before we moved into it and didn't tell me about it. We show up and there's like water coming out of the walls and places. I'm like, what's going on here? Flooded the house right when we were moving in. We had to rip up all the floors in about 30-something% of the house, which is primarily the downstairs living area. So we had to live in a little library for months while we waited for for the floors to be manufactured and reinstalled, and he would not put it on his insurance policy. I had to put it on my builder's risk policy, which has driven the insurance of my house through the freaking roof. What else happened? We had plumbing leaks galore. I mean, stuff would just be leaking. You'd come home and there'd be stuff coming through the ceiling. We had roof leaks galore. This guy used 4 different inept roofing contractors on this house. I brought in Southern Guardian Roofing, who I highly recommend, and they did a bang-up expert job, but you know, the guys tell me this is one of the worst roofing jobs I've ever seen, and if there's anything that is worse when you're building a house is having water in it. And not only that, the roof was leaking the whole time the house was being built. The whole time. I mean, when you get a house dried in, it's supposed to be dry. That's not how this was. This house had water in it morning, noon, and night up until the very end. We had AC condensate leaking down the wall for months because it hadn't even been hooked together. We had one of his subs got mad at my wife because they were so far behind schedule. They came out late, left early the very first day. It's the whole thing holding up the job, and they put a sound device in our home that like chirps every 3 minutes. And thankfully we found it, but otherwise we would have had to live with that forever. These are the kind of people that Jon Totherow controls or works with. He builds things completely wrong. We had an entire framed out section of the attic back here, had plans drawn and everything. I come home and it's built completely different. And I kept talking to him about it being completely differently built. And he kept pushing me off. And the only way that it was satisfied, I'll talk to you about in the end, was getting an attorney involved and filing complaints with the state and everything else. We're building an open staircase. We come home and it's closed, and then he wants to argue with us about the design because he can't figure out how to do it because he doesn't have any good business and building knowledge. He improperly framed the house. Well, you should have seen the home inspection report. It was a mile freaking long. But the worst is the bottom framing on the house, the very bottom, the foundation, didn't have any brackets hardly. It's a jaw dropper. I mean, you got a big, huge 3-story brick house with these massive chimneys, and you're not framing up the bottom properly. Now, we had 4 fireplaces. All 4 of them failed inspection. And then I had to go in with my money and fix it. Nobody reads any instructions. He's never out on the job. You're going to end up managing your job if you hire him. So he liened my house for unfinished work. The stuff wasn't even finished. And we were so far behind, and I was running out of money. It's like, I've got to get in this house. I've got to sell my other house. I didn't anticipate covering interest for twice as long and then having to pay out of pocket at the end. I just never conceived. And the budget was just blown through the roof. And so when he did that, that is when I did an open records request of all his past clients. And I got on the phone with them, and I got letters sent to him. I said, hey, are you having these same experiences? Because this is otherworldly to me. And all of them are like, yeah, that's exactly what I experienced. It's why you can't find any reviews online. Anytime there's a property where somebody can put a review online, he takes it down because all his reviews would be negative if you called him. I'll give you the list of folks to call. You can call them, talk to them yourself. I had to get an attorney. I had to have multiple inspections. Jon Totherow Construction contract is governed by third-party inspections, and he failed every third-party inspection every time I brought somebody out here, and he was all angry about it. I had to file a complaint with the state. The only thing that motivates Jon, if you're stuck in this situation and if you found this video too late, or if he built you a house and the thing has got all kinds of issues, you need to get an attorney. You need to hold them accountable from day one. You need to get a good home inspector at every stage. You need to file a complaint with the licensing board, and you need to write bad reviews online wherever you can. This guy is a predator. It's amazing he's allowed to keep his license. He shouldn't be able to. So I hope this helps somebody avoid falling victim to this gentleman. So, if you found this video, if you found this article, if you know somebody that's thinking about getting into business with Jon Totherow Construction, you need to shy them away from it. And I've had friends, like people I've known for decades, that went through the most horrific experience, acquaintances. It's terrible. It's universally terrible. So if you want to do business with the gentleman, go ahead. When you get about 6 months to 12 months into it, give old BL a call. give me a call, 423-313-4624. And tell me your sad sob story, because you'll have one a long way. Now, half of the stuff I can't remember because it's been 2 years ago. But again, it was talking to the gentleman 2 nights ago, and him being darn near in tears and his wife being unhappy. That I was like, you know what? I've been meaning to do this. I've dragged my feet for 2 years. I'm going to do it. And so I don't like using my publication for personal stuff. But when somebody's out there taking advantage of folks, you need to put a stop to it if you can. If you have the power, if you have the ability to do it. And hopefully, in some small way, this will do that. Even if we just save one person from the experience, it's well worth it. Guys, I appreciate you. Brandon Lewis here, the Tennessee Conservative, with a simple message. Stay away from Jon Totherow Construction. Take care.